Well, greetings and salutations, and welcome once again to the Newsman Weekly Podcast. Believe it or not, episode number 46. Almost a full year of tomfoolery taking place here at Richland Source in the podcast room. Thanks again to all of you for joining us today. We know you've got choices in this media-crazy world, and we're just glad you choose to spend time with us each and every week. My thanks also to the great folks at Relax It's Just Coffee for sponsoring this show. Every day just starts better with great coffee, and our friend Paul Kimmerling and his baristas at Relax simply have the best in town. So stop over there today and get a cup. Grab a fresh pastry from Blackbird Bakery inside the coffee shop. No better way to start your day. And please, tell them the newsman from Richland Source sent you. I am joined again today by Zac Hiser, the executive producer of the Newsman Weekly. Good morning, Zac.
Morning.
How was your weekend? I watched some of the NFL draft over the weekend, and quite frankly, your beloved Cleveland Browns were all over the damn map.
Richie's smirking over here, all over the map.
Two running backs, two quarterbacks, and a partridge in a pear tree. Who didn't you draft at this point?
Yeah, I mean, we got more quarterbacks to add to that shirt with all the Browns quarterbacks since 2000. We got a couple more we can throw on there.
You got more quarterbacks than you do linebackers.
It's a soap opera. I mean, if the Browns aren't on Hard Knocks this August, I don't know what they're doing with that QB room.
No, they have to be, because once they drafted Shedeur Sanders on Saturday, I'm sure Hard Knocks was already on the phone saying, yep, we're coming.
Right. Did you see the video of Stefanski and Barry after they drafted him? They looked like they were prisoners.
Yeah. I was one of those things where I wanted to go in there and say, blink if you're being held hostage.
Yeah, it's just bizarre. They traded a 5th-round pick for Kenny Pickett back a couple months ago.
Yeah, because everybody needs a Kenny Pickett.
They signed Flacco, and then
because everybody needs a 55-year-old Joe Flacco.
And then they take this, the reach for a kid that apparently they had secret workouts with him, Dylan Gabriel, in Oregon. And then they take Shedeur, which was, some people were saying he's going to go 2nd overall. So if you would have told me, hey, we're going to get him in the 5th round, I would have been, okay, yeah, great. That sounds awesome.
Could have had Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. Yeah.
But, I mean, I feel like Haslam called that one in. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't Haslam order them basically to draft the kid out of Texas A&M? What was his name?
Oh, Manziel.
Yeah, Johnny Manziel. Didn't he order that? He comes like the heavy.
I think what happened here is Trump called Haslam, and he was like, "Hey, the Browns got to draft. You got to draft Shedeur," and then he made the call. So.
Okay, so you're not going to blame Haslam for this. You want to blame.
I'm going to blame them both. Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, as far as like the rest of the draft, like I like the Michigan. I mean, the trade for the Browns. The Browns made. They got 2 extra picks, and they got a 1st rounder next year. They moved back 3 spots. They took a kid from Michigan, Mason Graham, who is a baller from everything I've read. I like the tight end they took from Bowling Green. He's an Ohio kid. He was born in Canton, went to high school in Canton, went to college in Ohio, and now he's going to be playing for the Browns. So that's a fun storyline.
Got Judkins,
the Ohio State running back. They got a Big Ten linebacker from UCLA who was rated pretty high. So, and I love that they have a Jacksonville pick next year. But all of that to say, they
got 5 quarterbacks.
Once again made a mess of the QB room.
Yeah, that simply has to be Hard Knocks. I mean, you can't have 5 quarterbacks. Because what's his name? I mean, he's still under contract.
Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson
on the roster. Yeah, I don't know. I would be shocked if he plays another snap for the Browns. I feel like they're going to find a way to put him on the injured list or some sort of list.
And I can't wait to see that preseason team photo when they take it. They're like 18. Okay, if you're a quarterback, come down front, then you realize there's not enough room for all 18 quarterbacks. All right. I watched as we were talking. I think all of us were talking on the Slack channel Thursday night, and I had one desire from my beloved Packers, and that was to draft Matthew Golden. And I said that before the draft started. I said, here's my big, bold prediction. Green Bay is going to trade up because we haven't drafted a wide receiver number 1 since 2002. And then they didn't have to trade up. Everybody else was doing other things. And then right before the pick, I said, please, dear God, let it be Matthew Golden. And then it turned out to be Matthew Golden. So
I was listening to the Bill Simmons podcast this weekend, and he likes Golden as the best receiver in the draft. So
I mean, he ran a 4.29 at the combine, which is probably the fastest he's ever run in his life. He's probably not really that fast, but he did it once. But yeah, we've had good wide receiver. We've had great. Jesus, Elmer Fudd. We've had great wide receivers at Green Bay over the years. Devontae Adams, Jordy Nelson, guys like that. But they've just never taken one in the first round.
Yeah,
so.
they took one in the third round too. It looks like.
Yeah, he looks more like a
project.
Deebo Samuel's kind of guy.
He's big.
He's 6'4", 228. He just kind of runs with a passion, and he can play receiver. They've lined him up at quarterback. They've put him at running back. He's just a guy. I don't know how great his hands are, but we can get the ball in his hands, and he doesn't drop it. He looks like he could be okay. Hey, we're also joined today by Knox County reporter Grant Ritchey, who's the show's videographer for at least one more week. Ritchie, I know your Cowboys, your Bengals, your Browns. I don't know how many different teams you have.
I just follow the Cowboys and Bengals.
All right. Well, how did you? Yeah, pick one. I'm not going to give you both of them.
Well, I actually got a story about Johnny Manziel since you brought it up. Apparently, Jerry Jones, who's the general manager and owner of the Dallas Cowboys, apparently he wanted to draft Johnny Manziel, and then Stephen Jones, his son, who is also the vice GM basically of the Cowboys, said, let's pick Zach Martin, which was a great pick, so he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But anyway, I thought the Cowboys had a great draft.
Of course you did.
Okay, man. Listen, I wanted Ted McMillan, but Carolina eventually got him. Otherwise, I think we would have got him at number 12. But Tyler Booker, I think he's like 300 pounds, guard from Alabama, right guard. He's played football his whole entire life, so I think he'll be good.
Yeah.
He's played football before.
Okay, man.
Yeah.
Some of these people, you get them like they played like basketball. I think like I saw like someone got drafted who used to play basketball, and he's potentially going to be a guard, but I forget what team did that. But yeah, we got that running back from, I think his name is Jadon Blue from Texas. We got that corner in the third round who I guess tore his ACL. Potentially have been a first-round pick from some grades I saw, but with the injury. So, yeah, I thought the Cowboys had a really good draft, but, we got to wait until September once those players actually get out there on the field. So,
one thing I can say about the NFL draft, and every year there's draft grades, and you get an A, you get a B, then you get a C. They had a great draft, they had a bad draft. Nobody knows.
Every year they're wrong.
This stuff is a crapshoot. And I'll be honest with you, you don't know whether you've had a successful NFL draft for maybe 2 or 3 seasons.
It's true.
Because you don't know who's going to pan out. Everybody looks good on paper, with the possible exception of Tony Mandarich, who the Packers drafted number 1 many years ago. Turns out he was on steroids, and the first thing he did was lose 40 pounds by the time he got to training camp.
Yeah.
That didn't turn out
I will say there's been some Browns drafts where we knew pretty quickly it was bad.
Did you know Johnny Manziel would have been a bust as soon as like you drafted?
No. I mean, not really him, but there's been some drafts where it's just been a disaster.
My favorite all-time Browns number 1 draft pick was the night they took Mike McJunkin, the mad dog in a meat market, as Marty Schottenheimer referred to him. And he was a big linebacker, and turns out he was more of a kitty instead of a mad dog, so he didn't last very long. Hey, Richie, I drove through Knox County over the weekend on my way down to New Concord. I rolled by Gambier and over to Coshocton County. Such a nice-looking area east of Mount Vernon there off of 36 and some other roads. Did you ever spend much time just hanging out down on the farms with the cows out in Knox County?
No, sometimes I will roll into Gambier, though, and get they have like some good restaurants there, and obviously Kenyon College is there. But, yeah, I'm not usually rolling around in the fields with the cows.
Yeah.
Like, what's that? Oh, man, what's the one show down on the prairie or something?
Little House on the
Prairie?
Prairie?
Yeah, where like they're going over the over the ravine.
Yeah. See, when I think of that in TV shows, I think you're more of a Green Acres guy. I don't know, that's way before your time, but you're more of a Mr. Haney kind of guy from Green Acres. But hey, as I mentioned, I was down in New Concord over the weekend in Muskingum County. For those not familiar, New Concord is the boyhood home of astronaut and later Senator John Glenn. It's also the home of Muskingum University. It's a village of about 2,200 residents, about an hour east of Columbus, right off of Interstate 70. I'm not certain why, but my alma mater decided to induct me and 3 other graduates over the years into the East Muskingum School District Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame.
Congrats.
Well, thank you very much. Like I said, I have no idea really why, but I was there. They had a ceremony at John Glenn High School Saturday evening. It's the same school building that I went to. They've added on some things like a very nice new gymnasium. I was the fourth person in my 168-member class of 1979 to be inducted. The first three were really quality people, very good.
John Glenn?
No, John Glenn was inducted. He was the first.
Okay.
He was graduated from New Concord High back in 1939. And when they started this Alumni Hall of Fame many years ago, he was numero uno, of course. But as I said in my brief speech afterward, I'm not sure why I was selected for induction, but it was and is a humbling experience, and it was nice to be back inside my alma mater. I would encourage everybody, if you haven't been back to your high school for a while, go back and check it out. Hiser, have you been down to Lexington High School?
I did. I went
lately?
there for the News Journal All-Star Game
Right.
and got to see the new building for the first time.
Well, see, yeah,
nice.
Your old building is gone.
It's gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Richie, how about you? Where'd you go to high school?
Lakewood Local Schools in Hebron, Ohio. I haven't been there in probably 5 years, honestly, since my sister graduated.
Is your building still there that you
Yeah,
graduated
it's
from?
like fairly new. I think they built it like in the mid-2000s. So.
Yeah.
Well, maybe in 30 years they'll induct you into the Lakewood's Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's usually what it takes, about 30 years. But it was so cool because they had this little reception before, and what is now the library. At the time I was there, it was the typing class because they used to teach that in schools. I don't know if they still do, but right across the hallway was the old journalism room. So I got to peek inside there and remember various battles I had with.
Did you do student newspaper in high school?
I edited the high school newspaper my sophomore and junior year, and then I edited the yearbook my senior year. So my teacher at that time was a guy named G.J. Bryan III. He was a wonderful teacher, and he retired a couple of years after I graduated, and I fear that I kind of pushed him toward that retirement because I was not a fun student to have in your classroom. I tended to act out, class clown type of stuff, and he would get upset with me, but he was somebody that said, you're not really bad at this stuff, so you might want to think about this as a career.
But now here you are in the Hall of Fame.
And one of my old teachers, she was there. Her name was Bernice Litt. She taught typing, and I never took a typing class. To this day, I still type with two fingers. But a few days after I graduated, I realized, maybe I should go back and take a typing class. So I went back to the school, and she was there, and I said, Mrs. Litt, I think I'm going to be a journalism major at Ohio University. I don't really know how to type. Could you teach me? And she said, well, sit down at a typewriter. Let me see how you do it now. And I sat down with my two fingers, and I was typing away, and I stopped after a little while, and I said, what do you think? And she goes, anything I could teach you at this point would just screw you up. Just do what you're doing. So, and she was there Saturday night, and it was great to see her and her daughter.
That's cool.
So, yeah, it was a good time. Hey, folks, we got another interesting and informative show for you today. In a few minutes, we'll be joined by Mansfield Mayor Jodie Perry and Safety Service Director Keith Porch. City of Mansfield has 2 municipal income tax renewal issues on the May 6th primary ballot. We will talk to the mayor and the service director about those and how important each one is to the city of Mansfield. So stay tuned for that discussion. But until then, we got some local news to talk about. There was a groundbreaking Monday afternoon for a new $38 million assisted living development at 300 Klein Avenue in Mansfield. For those who don't know, they used to be the old Appleseed School. Work was already underway at the site for Ohio's first silver birch living community. Officials with Vermilion Development, which is based in Chicago, called the project, quote, a major milestone for senior housing in northern Ohio, end quote. The Silver Birch of Mansfield will be a 3-story multifamily community of 120 apartments, offering optional, affordable assisted living services according to the company. We'll see how folks around here react to the word affordable. I don't know exactly how much it's going to cost. The new community will be a wood-frame, 3-story elevator installed building with studio and 1-bedroom apartments. It will feature designated resident laundry rooms, a barber and a beauty shop, a library, physical therapy/fitness center, recreational and social areas, as well as outdoor spaces, including walking paths, gazebo, and a patio. I covered the groundbreaking ceremony, and we posted a story and photos on the Richland Source website.
I see there's a virtual tour in there.
Yes.
Is that what it's going to look like?
Yep, that's pretty much the same thing it's going to be. That's one they
It's
had
pretty fancy.
somewhere in Indiana. For those who wonder, this first came up a couple of years ago before the City Planning Commission because they needed to get a variance because they're not going to have as many parking spaces as such a building might need. But as they explained to the Planning Commission, most of our residents don't have cars. So we don't need as many. But it's interesting because if folks remember even before that, one of the first things that came before the Planning Commission, somebody wanted to build a Dollar General or one of those type stores in that space, and the Planning Commission said no. So
Good.
You're going to have a nice new senior living center rather than
That's fine. No more Dollar Generals.
Another Dollar General. Speaking of the Planning Commission, City of Mansfield announced plans last week that it would like to rezone 321 acres of land out near Mansfield Lahm Regional Airport. Officials said rezoning the 16 parcels of land to I-2, which is heavy industrial, from its current I-1 status, would help open doors to future high-quality heavy manufacturing jobs in the city. City Planning Commission on Tuesday of last week approved the request to rezone those parcels in and around the Airport West Industrial Park, most of which is owned by the Adena Development Corporation and the City of Mansfield. The request, which was made by Adena and the city, will now go to Mansfield City Council for consideration, and there will be a public hearing on the proposal. Barrett Thomas, the Senior Director of Economic Development for Richland Area Chamber and Economic Development, said companies looking to locate to a new location consider three top factors: speed, risk, and cost. Quote, "This rezoning sends a strong message that we are a ready, capable, and business-friendly community, which is exactly what today's manufacturers are looking for," Thomas said.
Are these parcels just empty land?
Empty land.
Okay.
So
they're looking for someone to come in and build.
Right. And one of the parcels is currently on one of the spec buildings that Adena is building out there.
Okay.
So it would fall into that zoning, which would open up more options for possible tenants and or purchasers. Say that quick 3 times, Richie.
Purchasers. I'm not going to do it, man. Come on.
Oh, hey, speaking of Richie and his neck of the woods down in Knox County, bond was set at $2 million cash in Knox County Common Pleas Court last week for a former Faith Life Church official who's been charged with 27 sexual abuse counts, including 11 rape allegations. Judge Richard Wetzel, God, it's early in
Monday,
the morning.
man.
It is. Set the cash bond for Gary Thomas Tom Cassee Jr. during an arraignment in front of a packed courtroom, an audience that included his parents, Gary Sr., and Drinda Cassee, who are co-pastors of the church based in New Albany, and Drinda Cassee is also a sitting Knox County commissioner. Cassee was indicted Monday by a Knox County grand jury on charges that included 11 counts of first-degree rape, 11 counts of gross sexual imposition, and 5 counts of unlawful sexual conduct with a minor. None of the alleged crimes occurred at the church, according to investigators. Columbus defense attorney Samuel Szymanski entered not guilty pleas to all charges on behalf of his client, who sat next to him shackled in an orange jail jumpsuit. Wetzel set bond at $2 million with no 10% provision. He also ordered a $5,000 cash deposit to cover the cost of a GPS monitor if Cassee posts bail. He suspended Cassee's driver's license and also ordered he surrender his passport if he's released.
Right. Now, what's a 10% provision?
Well, sometimes if you set bail at $50,000, you have to put up at least 10%. In this case, it's going to have to be $2 million. Right. It could be property, it could be bonds, it could be cash, it could be a combination of things, but it's going to have to equal $2 million.
And yeah, surrendering the passport because it's kind of a flight risk because the family has private planes.
Well, his parents own a private plane,
Okay.
as Szymanski pointed out during the arraignment. The defendant doesn't own a plane,
Right.
But he does have access to it, and the Prosecutor during the arraignment basically said, look, based upon the fact that 22 of these 27 charges are considered violent crimes, and the fact his parents do own an airplane, they did consider him a flight risk. Szymanski said he's no flight risk at all. The prosecutor asked for a $5 million bond, and the judge settled on $2 million. Cassie, who resigned as the church's chief media officer in 2024, has been in the Licking County Jail since Friday. Wetzel ordered he can't be released until the bond and cash deposit are posted. And when I say Friday, it was Friday a week ago when he was arrested. He's also subject to weekly pretrial reporting to the Knox County Probation Department. He was ordered not to have contact with the victims if he is indeed released from jail prior a pending trial. We had a ton of coverage on this case last week in Knox Pages, Richland Source, and we'll continue to follow it as it moves through the court system. One last thing before we take a break. We have a huge event coming up Wednesday, May 7th that I want to remind everybody about. Mansfield native Matthew Failor is coming home from Alaska to talk about the recently concluded Iditarod sled dog race across Alaska, and you're invited to be a part of the conversation. It's called Beyond the Trail, a conversation with Matthew Failor. It's coming up Wednesday, May 7th in the St. Peter's High School auditorium. Failor is making the journey back to his hometown to share his incredible journey and experiences of racing in the Iditarod, an event that's been dubbed the last great race on Earth. The event will begin with a conversation between myself and Failor, who lives in Willow, Alaska, with his wife Liz and son Theo. After Matt and I talk, we'll have a question and answer session, and if you're in attendance, you can ask whatever questions you have. We did a similar event last year at Richland Source offices, which was a wildly popular event that sold out in less than 10 hours with our limited seating capacity. This year's event is going to be inside the spacious St. Peter's High School auditorium, a.k.a. the Robert Fry Gymnasium at 104 West 1st Street.
It's a great venue.
It is.
Much better than last year. No offense to our building. It's great. But these, the stadium seating kind of in the St. Pete's Auditorium, it's going to be, and there's a projector to show pictures better than our little 50-inch TV screen.
Yeah.
So
we thank our friends at St. Peter's School for allowing us to use this great space for this event. Tickets are $20. Half of the proceeds are going to go to the local Boy Scout program to benefit an organization that helped Failor obtain his Eagle Scout status when he was growing up here in Mansfield. We will again put a link in the show notes to the Eventbrite site where you can buy your tickets to what I'm sure is going to be an amazing night. Hey, that's enough for now. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Mansfield Mayor Jodie Perry and Safety Services Director Keith Porch. So please, stay with us. Well, welcome back to the Newsman Weekly. We're now joined by Mansfield Mayor Jodie Perry and Safety Service Director Keith Porch. Good morning to both of you, and thanks for just getting up so damn early in the morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, the city of Mansfield has a couple of tax issues on the May 6th primary ballot. Neither are strangers to local voters. They've both been around a while. The Pride tax and the Pothole Haters tax, which will forever remain my favorite named tax. Thank you, Eric Miller, for doing that many years ago. Both are 4-year renewals, and I say renewals, folks, because neither one's going to cost you any additional money. These are renewal levies, tax levies. Sorry, it's early. Both are 1%, 1/4% municipal income taxes. Each one generates about $4.8 million annually. Jodie, let's start with the Pride tax. City voters nearly approved it for the first time in 2013, just before the city emerged from state-ordered fiscal emergency. And those of you listening who don't remember those days, that was not a fun time. But I believe the Pride tax is an acronym. Tell us what it means and explain, if you would, how the city uses the money that's generated from the Pride tax.
Sure. I think back when it was passed, it was kind of a nod to Tiger Pride, kind of that idea. But it stands for Parks and Recreation. illumination, demolition, and emergency services. So basically, when you put a tax on the ballot like that, it has certain percentages where each of the dollars go to. The city has to spend the money in that way. So it's actually going into separate buckets. It doesn't get mixed in with the general fund, and that makes sure that we're doing it all according to the will of the voters.
Yeah, I know under the pride tax, I think 50% has to go to safety forces.
Correct.
22% for parks and rec, 20% for demolition, and then 8% goes to streetlights. And again, those of you who don't remember, there was a time in the city of Mansfield when we couldn't afford to keep the streetlights on. But I know one of the things it does, excuse me, working with the Richland County Land Bank over the years, the city has used that pride tax to demolish a lot of dilapidated buildings that otherwise may still be standing and sitting and falling apart. A lot of those properties have been redeveloped with either new housing or at least far more attractive green space. Jodie, how important is this demo work in terms of redevelopment and economic growth?
I mean, Mansfield would look very different if we did not have this money. I really appreciate the previous administration for putting this on the ballot in doing that, because it really, at the beginning of the land bank, there was a lot of money that they were getting related to the housing crisis and that. But that really ended probably close to the time this tax passed. And so, a lot of the money that has been used for demolition, certainly on the residential side, has been the city's money. And hundreds and hundreds of blighted and abandoned, condemned properties have been demoed with this money. So it's pretty crucial. It's been great recently that the state has brought back their funding. So that has allowed us to go after some of the larger commercial sites like Westinghouse. I mean, if we were only relying on the city's money for those big sites, that would not be able to happen. So I think it's been a good mix of residential and commercial.
Now, half the pride tax goes to police and fire. City voters over the years have also approved a 0.5% safety forces tax, which is not on the ballot this year, that is exclusively police and fire. But Keith, even with the safety forces tax, what would the impact be on city's police and fire departments if the pride tax was not renewed on May 6th?
Well, I think it's important to note that if that was not passed, that's clearly the high percentage of police and fire budget relates to personnel. So if there would be some hard decisions as it relates to personnel levels within the safety forces if that would not pass.
Yeah, because I think what is the current? You guys are almost up. I think what is it, 87 that you're budgeted for, or is that how many currently have?
That is correct. Currently budgeted at 87, and now the personnel within police sit at 80. Now, that 87, Carl, it's important to also mention that that's with the addition of that COPS grant. So we received a federal waiver through that COPS grant at $1.1 million for 4 positions within the police department. So we still try to continually attack the personnel levels through grants of the COPS program that was released in the early 90s.
And I mean, it was just a few years ago, I think maybe 2021, you guys got as low as down into the 60s, I think, in terms of sworn officers. So, I mean, it would be maybe not a pretty sight if you lost the pride tax in terms of trying to get officers on the streets and in the cars.
I mean, the funds are really crucial for safety.
Now, Jodie, some people may not be aware that when the city went into fiscal emergency, the city parks department simply went away. There was no work in the city parks other than mowing, I think. Now, one of your administration's goals since you took office, hard to believe 17 months ago almost, is to improve city parks. What would happen to the ongoing plans in the parks without that pride tax money? Because I think it's primarily the parks budget is what comes from the pride tax.
Yeah, it's actually 100% of the parks budget. So last year I was able to put $100,000 from the general fund to kind of complement that But this year we did not do that at this point. So, if this tax does not pass, unfortunately, our Parks Department is going to see some massive impacts. The general fund cannot, it's not going to be able to bear all of it. So, hopefully it doesn't come to that. And I don't know, how we would make adjustments. But, again, similar to what Director Porch said, we know staffing. I mean, staffing makes up the biggest part of those spends. So that would absolutely be impacted. And, I think, so I actually wasn't in town for fiscal emergency.
It wasn't fun.
Yeah. I think it, but I've heard lots and lots of stories about it. And I know residents really stepped up to help care for the parks, but it has taken the city, every bit of a decade plus to work our way out of that hole when they were closed. I mean, I think we've now just about replaced all of the playground equipment. But there was a lot of things that just took a long time to get back up and running. And so, I think we've got some really great momentum right now. And I definitely do not want to lose that. And I think, the best, most positive feedback we've gotten from residents since I've been in office has been our work in the parks. So, yeah.
Yeah, the thing about the pride tax, it was on the ballot in the general election back in 2013. And city voters approved it by just 51%. It was approved for renewal by 78% of voters in 2017. So obviously, folks had seen how the money was being used. In 2021, 72% of voters approved another renewal. Now, Keith, you've been involved in local law enforcement for more than 30 years. From a emergency services standpoint, why do you think this tax resonates so well with local residents?
It works well, especially in combination with the current safety levy. So I think the citizens within Mansfield has always supported the safety forces, especially when that safety levy first came enacted back in the late 80s. There was an additional need, as you've seen within 13 when the Pride was developed. And again, the voters within Mansfield stepped up big time to support the safety side of the house, to make sure that police and fire have the personnel and the equipment necessary to do the job that we expect them to do.
Now, we talked about the police level staffing. What's the current situation within the fire department in terms of staffing right now?
So they currently have 2 vacancies. So they sit at 91. They are budgeted at 93.
So almost both departments are close to fully staffed.
Yes.
Or getting. And I realize when you make new hires, firefighters don't jump on a truck on their first day, and new hires in the police department aren't out patrolling the first day. Mm-hmm. So there's a lag time.
Yes, but back in the, probably 2007, 2008, both departments were budgeted and staffed at 102. So, I mean, throughout the times of the hard financial times, we are not there, but, we are it's showing that we're using the funds fiscally and responsibly. So I know the mayor, I know myself, we would love both departments to be at 102, which they had been in the past. But it takes time. It takes, as you know, funds to be able to do that. But we have to make those decisions with personnel and equipment and training as a whole to make those decisions.
All right, let's switch gears for a minute to talk about the Pothole Haters tax. First approved back in the 80s, it was an initiative to provide dedicated funding to fixing and repaving city streets. Local attorney Eric Miller and his group pushed for that tax, and I believe they still monitor the expenditures of that tax each year to make sure that all the revenue from that tax goes to fixing city streets. So, Jodie, explain to us how the city uses funds from the Pothole Haters tax, and maybe briefly tell us what work wouldn't get done if you didn't have nearly $5 million a year coming in to help pay for city street work.
So, I would say in January, February, somewhere in there, our engineer brings to council a set of roads that we are going to repave. It's a dozen, 24 miles every year that's being repaved all over the city. That work is 100% funded by this tax. It would not happen without it. In the city, again, our street department is mainly funded by the gas tax, the state gas tax, and it runs with a very slim margin. So, if we were to not have this money, our resurfacing program would basically go away, and we would just be doing patchwork all over. So, it's really crucial to that. They really go out and look at every inch of road gets a rating every year. That's how they decide. I know I get a lot of questions about that. How do you rate roads? Are you looking at them? Why are you paving my street? Things like that.
Yeah, I live in a township, so I don't see a lot of the benefit of that. But I know I just drove through the roundabout at Middle Belleville and Straub, and that was paved. In the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And, of course, I was upset because they were closing the roundabout and I had to go a different way. But now I think the city's paving about 24 miles of Mansfield streets this year. Last time I looked, this is not cheap, folks. If you think paving streets is cheap because you're doing 24 miles, I think the city has like 321 miles of roads. But those 24 miles are going to cost almost $6 million.
Mm-hmm.
A year ago, it was 18.8 miles at a cost of $4.3 million.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not cheap work. So if you didn't have the Pothole Haters tax, would there be any repaving, or would it strictly be, or how much of that would have to come from a general fund budget that really would be strained to cover that work?
I mean, let me put it this way. We would only be able to go to the general fund. There's just not any other money in our streets budget from the gas tax, and the general fund does not, it will not be able to bear that in any significant way. So we would then be just kind of doing those cut and patch work, maybe some small things, or relying on ODOT for the state routes, and then you would not see many other things. And so I know, a lot of times we've talked about this in the past. There's a lot of comments online about fix the roads. And
wait, Facebook?
Yeah.
Facebook comments in the city of Mansfield? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And, I actually think sometimes people don't understand where the corporation lines are. And so they're thinking of township roads, or they're thinking of maybe another jurisdiction roads. Yes, we do have roads that have potholes in them. I mean, as you said, we have hundreds of miles of road. We cannot repave them all. But, I think our engineering office does a really great job staying on top of the worst ones. Now, I will just, if I can, head this off, because I know I've gotten a lot of feedback this year about Park Avenue. And I 100% agree with you. Park Avenue is terrible at the moment, but it is a state route. So we need ODOT to help us repave Park Avenue. And that is not due for a while, unfortunately. So I do think we're going to get out and fix some of those potholes, though, because we know, I think it maybe is scheduled for 2028 or 2029. It's not, we can't continue that. The rideability is just too poor. So, and again, it's these dollars that are going to allow us to at least make some small repairs to it while we wait on the larger state dollars.
Well, I know people complained about 13 South on the southern side of the city that runs down to Hanley Road. Mm-hmm. And a few years ago, I did a story because ODOT, which is responsible for the road, decided to go out and put a whole bunch of patches on it because it wasn't scheduled to be resurfaced for a few years. And now people are complaining because 13 is down to one lane because ODOT has reached the point where they're completely, stripping it down to dirt and redoing the whole thing. So from you guys' standpoint, is there ever a moment where you say, damned if I do, damned if I don't? People complain about the streets, but then we have to close the street to fix it, and then why are the streets closed?
welcome to city government, Carl.
I would echo that.
And look, I get it to some degree, right? Because a lot of times people don't know all of that backstory on things. They don't understand how the money ties. That's a common misconception. I can't just spend money that's dedicated to parks on streets. I just cannot do it legally, and nor would I ever do that. And so I get that people get frustrated with things, but if we want them to get better, there's going to be an impact. It is, as I've been pre-apologizing to everyone this year because both Main Street and 13 South in the same year is a little rough. So
it's just an opportunity to
yes.
get to know other roads.
Correct.
Yeah.
There's a lot that's the great thing about Mansfield. There's many roads lead to Rome here. So
yes. I've been happily taking Main Street. Once I get, before it starts down 13 going south, I just take Main Street and go down that way.
There you go.
Jodie, have you ever looked into or heard of any different road materials or repair methods for potholes that actually make the street last longer? So you're not, because obviously with Ohio winters, it's
right.
you're always chasing your tail, it seems like, and that's just a disadvantage of living where we live. But I've heard of other cities, bigger cities, using different chemicals. Or is that more of a ODOT thing? That
it is. So we just typically use cold patch. We don't do hot patch repair internally in the city. That's generally your best thing. I will say we did just meet recently with a gentleman who has a business that operates out of Braintree that uses some different materials to fix potholes. So we're doing a little bit of a test case on that in a couple places just to see. He believes it'll hold up better. So if that is the case, now it would require in some cases it's got to set. So we'd have to close the street a little bit.
Oh, no.
So we're gonna do some testing of it and see how it works on the streets. But yeah,
cool.
That's. Cold patch, unfortunately, is the best, quickest, least expensive way to get out at them. But, yeah.
Now,
if I can chime in there as well,
sure.
I am familiar with the chemical treatment. I know that the city of Columbus has been using a test of chemicals. So our city engineer is aware of this chemical process. So we might do a test strip of maybe a street or two in Mansfield to see how that's going to hold up.
Interesting.
So, the name currently now escapes me of what this chemical is called, but it extends the life of the asphalt.
So in a perfect world, and boy, Facebook's going to love this. In a perfect world, you would have a repaved road that went directly to the city pool, a bowling alley, and a skating rink. That would be the perfect world.
And a minor league baseball stadium.
Yeah, minor league. Well, Liberty Park's coming back, so Kurt Conrad's going to write about this week. Liberty Park baseball is.
I got to throw out the first pitch and everything.
I can't.
It wasn't that embarrassing. It was not.
Okay.
It wasn't a strike, but at least went straight.
Did it bounce one time or two times before it?
Before it hit the plate, probably a couple times, but it rolled straight too.
That's good.
Yeah.
Video or it didn't happen. That's all I'm going to say about that. I need to see.
I think their coach took a little bit of a video. So yeah.
That'll. If he did, I'm sure that will surface at some point out there on Facebook.
You love good embarrassing videos of me here at Richland Source.
Well,
there's one of me eating a cicada somewhere.
Well, and you have to be careful because sometimes it's still photos because I still take grief under the previous administration when Mayor Thaker was doing the dog police canine bite video. And I think, Keith, you were out there that day, weren't you?
I was front and center.
Yeah, and the dog bit the arm sleeve, and the sleeve came off, and the mayor fell down, and I mean, he was laughing, blah, 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 everybody, but then he realized maybe he was injured. So he went into the little room that was there at the canine training place, and next thing you know, he finds out he's got broken ribs. And I remember, I think it was you I looked at and said, so what are your plans after public service, Mr. Porch? Because one of your dogs just injured the mayor. So it's not just you, Jody.
Yeah,
these things,
yeah. I'm learning from those mistakes, though. I've already told our K-9 units I'm probably not going to do that.
Yeah,
I think from that incident, I had been chief for 2 months. And
Yeah.
I thought,
Oh, my
well,
gosh.
It was a good run for the 2 months.
Yeah, I thought, well, you know what? We will have a new police chief. And I still to this day don't understand why anybody wants to put on that sleeve and have a police canine bite it.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
They all assure me that it's really easy, Mayor. You just gotta. It's all about your stance, and But
You got to lean into it. I don't think Mayor Failor leaned into it.
Well, let me just say this: if you ever think about doing that, let me know. I'll share those photos with you again. And,
I thought you were going to say you'd show up with a camera.
Oh, shoot. I will definitely be there with a camera, but I would urge you to
reconsider.
Exactly. All right. While I got the both of you here today, Police Chief Jason Bauman issued a press release on Sunday afternoon about an arrest made on the front porch of a Blymeyer Avenue residence back on April 9th. There was some, what do they call those things? You have a Ring camera on your front. I mean, I don't have one, but there was one of those on that, and a video surfaced of that arrest. I think it was about 2 minutes and 46 seconds. And the suspect in that case has filed a complaint against the officers involved. So there was an internal investigation, and in his press release, the police chief said that they found, quote, all officers acted within the policies of the division. Keith, the chief said you reviewed the case without going into all the particulars. Are you satisfied in looking at all the different video and things that all departmental policies were followed? And as a former officer, as you watch those, is there anything that you think would or could have been done differently that night?
Well, first, let's start at the video as it was posted on social media, and obviously that caused concern within the community. Just as a other critical incident involving an officer in the police department, there's nobody that wants the answers more than the chief of police, more than me, more than the community in a matter of hours. But clearly there's a process that has to be followed. The last thing you want to do is to make snap decisions, judgments when you don't have all the facts. I mean, as much as comments were being made on Facebook, and you want to be able to answer those as quickly as you can, and to assure the public that we are taking the matter seriously, and it will definitely be looked in. But sometimes that those things just don't happen as quickly as you would like. So this investigation, after all the evidence involved, videos from the in-car cameras, body-worn cameras, obviously the Ring camera that was posted on social media, was all reviewed along with written reports that were submitted. It was definitely my determination that officers acted according to policy in regards to this incident. I mean, that's definitely been my determination from the start, to make sure we had all the facts available before a determination was made. As far as your second question, we expect our police officers to investigate suspicious activity, and to make sure crimes are not being committed. And this incident, I guess, is a highlight of that, of what we expect our officers to be doing when doing shift work.
Now, once this, whatever criminal case is pending against this gentleman, he certainly has the right to file a complaint or his issues with the Police Review Commission.
Absolutely.
And maybe explain how that works.
Yeah. So the individual has filed a complaint. So that process is obviously has been investigated. Now, out of this incident, he was criminally charged. So we cannot. This case cannot proceed to the Police Review Board until that court case is disposed and how his charges are handling. Once that is complete, the next step would be that case to be presented at the Police Review Board, which he'll have an opportunity to come and present his side of the story. I have a letter will be going out to Mr. Brown, informing him of that process. I had also called Friday to inform him by phone of the decision that was made by me.
Now, just for those who might not understand, the Police Review Commission is made up of civilians, just residents, who are appointed by Mansfield City Council. So these are not members of the police department or city government. These are residents who will hear that case if he decides to pursue it and to have it go in and state his case there. All right. Well, let's go back for just one. I wanted to talk about that since it came up yesterday afternoon. But let's finish by going back to the Pothole Haters tax and the Pride tax. I'll give both of you a chance. Voters, some have already voted early, but for those who haven't voted yet or are waiting until May 6th, give me your best pitch on why the Pride tax and the Pothole Haters tax should be renewed or approved for renewal in the primary election.
So, I guess I would say we have a strong track record with both of these taxes. The Pothole Haters tax or resurfacing tax is decades long, that we've been able to show the proof of what the city has done with those funds. And the Pride tax doesn't go back as long, but we're nearing 12 years at this point. And the momentum that we have built within our parks, within our safety services, with the blight removal and demolition, I think really speaks for itself. And I do understand that, the economy's in a different spot at this point. We're just in a different environment. But these are taxes that citizens have been paying. They have been reaping the benefits of those. And so we definitely encourage you to renew those for us.
All right, folks, we're going to wrap up today's show on that note. Please get out and vote on May 6th if you haven't voted already. Many thanks to Mansfield Mayor Jodie Perry and Safety Service Director Keith Porch for joining us today. It's always good to see. You guys have been on before, but never at the same time.
That's true, yeah.
Very good. Hey, and thanks again to all of you for listening to this week's Newsman Weekly. I'll be back in a second to put a bow on this week's episode, but until then, please remember what Mark Twain said. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything.